This is Laurel Rutledge, your host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show that comes to you live on the historic KCOH TV radio station in Houston, Texas. And I'm so excited to have you join me on Tuesday mornings at 10 a.m. Central, where we will speak the truth, we'll challenge perspective, and we will have a few laughs. Catch the live show on my Facebook page, my LinkedIn page, my YouTube channel, and you can also catch it on Alexa or the TuneIn app or the KCOH TV Radio, the Boost page, and even on my producer Jerry P. Beasley's Facebook page. I'm telling you, wherever you are, I will be too. So let's do this. Join me, 10 a.m. Central, KCOH TV Radio, the Boost. I'll see you there.
Welcome to Musical Tinko.
We are here live, y'all. Getting ready to get started. It's Tuesday. It's my birthday. We're going to have a good time today. We always have a good time, but we're going to have a special good time today. And I'm excited to spend this day with all of you guys. We're going to be getting started here shortly. Glad you're here with me. It's a new day. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Nothing like starting the day with a little reggae. Welcome to the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost, in the historic KCOH station at the corner of Alameda and Wichita in Houston, Texas. And I'm just so happy to be here. It's Tuesday. It's my birthday. It's voting day in some places. It's just, Tuesdays are good days. Because sometimes when your birthday lands in the middle of the week, you're like, oh man, but mine landed on Tuesday. So it's all good today. So we're going to switch it up a little bit. We are absolutely still going to talk about voting and some PSAs and stuff. But we're going to do that at the end. So we're going to just jump right in to today. And today we're talking about reflection, action, all this kind of stuff. And I have to show y'all. See my beautiful flowers? My Fierce Five gave to me for my birthday. Woo! Thank y'all, ladies. So, and my favorite colors. So, it's been awesome for all the messages and the posts and all of that. And I will respond to all of them today. So thank you so much, everybody, for celebrating with me. I am truly blessed to see another day and to have gotten through another year, because it's been a little bit insane. And I am just happy to be here today. So had a wonderful little staycation over the weekend. Splurged. It was more than splurge, y'all, but splurged. And took myself to the Post Oak for the weekend. And it's just lovely. But you know what? So the accelerator that I'm in now talks about what is that $1 million vision, that $1 million idea, that $1 million lifestyle that you're looking at and wanting, right? And what does that feel like? And what are the things you can do? Some that may cost money, but many that don't, that can make you feel like $1 million all the time. And so you just kind of get used to that feeling. And it's not about the things, right? It's not necessarily about all the stuff, but it's about putting yourself in situations where you feel like $1 million. Feel like $1 million, that you get used to that $1 million feeling in that $1 million lifestyle. If you're trying to build $1 million business, $1 million empire, and we are all building our empires, y'all. We are out there to make $1 million impact, and women in particular. When we are in leadership positions, when we build businesses, when we lead companies, we lift up communities, we lift up families. That's just what we do, right? And all the research shows it. So not that we don't love our men, because we love us some men. And women just have a tendency to spend their money just a little bit differently, right? So I think there's when they talk about Africa, right, and lifting up villages, when you teach a man, you lift up a family. When you teach a woman, you lift up a community, right? It's just the way we are. So we're going to be doing some reflection today, some reflection on on action and all the things we've been talking about this year, about how words matter, about how you show up, about moving in action. I've finally, I think, found my word, and you'll see that coming out soon. I've still got some work to do on tying it in, but finally found it. Y'all have heard me talk about this coach thing. It just bothers me because that doesn't describe accurately what I do with people. It just doesn't. It's a word that people understand, or they think they understand, right? We have a vision of what a coach is, but it doesn't quite reflect. So I think I finally found the word. I just got to make it work with everything and make sure it makes sense. And it's just as I was waking up this morning and getting ready and deciding, last week and this weekend what we're going to talk about today. We've talked before about reflection, about postmortem, and I normally do a year in review, and I'll still do that in December, right? Getting ready for the next year. But something about this year and all of the things that have been going on in the world, in society, in our lives, the fact that we are in the third year of the pandemic, although now they're finally saying it's an endemic, but it is not gone. COVID is not gone. It's just morphing. And there's just been a lot for a long time. And so when I work with clients and I talk about doing postmortems and go back and look at things and learn things, the challenge a lot of times with going back and reflecting is we have a tendency to want to fix the stuff that happened in the past. Well, you can't do that. It already happened. You can't change it. And you aren't doing yourself a favor if you try to beat yourself up about something that happened in the past when you were doing the best you could with the information that you had. Now, if you just did stupid stuff, that's different, right? So you can't do a postmortem or a year in review or a project in review with the purpose of blaming yourself or others. That's just fruitless. But if you reflect as a way to, one, celebrate the wins, celebrate how far you've come, celebrate the amazing being that is you, and two, to learn and understand what you might want to do differently or change or keep doing going forward. Is that stop, start, continue. What am I going to stop doing? What am I going to continue to do? And then what am I going to start doing? Because I still have my eyes on the ultimate prize. I still know where I'm going to go. I still know my what. What is it I'm trying to accomplish? So this idea of reflection is about how can I take everything that I've done, all the experiences that I've had, everything that I've learned, and turn that into action and forward movement towards the goal that I have, the what that I have. Because we get caught up in the how. And that's what happens with reflection. We get caught up in the how did I let that happen? How did I make that decision? How come, just all the hows. And we use that as a weapon. We use our history to beat ourselves up and maybe to beat other people up, right? And that's not the point. The point is to use reflection as a tool, to use reflection to catapult you forward. And so as I was starting to think about reflection for 2022, there's a few things that came up that also I've heard from many of you. One of those, in terms of celebration, is celebrate the things, the small things that you have done, that you've accomplished. And when I say small, I mean sometimes an accomplishment for someone, depending on where they are in that moment, is simply getting out of bed that day. That is an accomplishment, to get up and get out of bed. I was talking to a client, I think it was this week, and I was like, I got up this morning. It was a crazy weekend. I did my staycation, but it wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to happen. There were some things that occurred that I didn't want to happen. My battery went out and I was irritated. Talk about postmortem, right? My battery. So I'm running around, got this lovely hotel that I want to be able to spend time in, running around doing some errands because both my grandmothers had birthdays this weekend too. They've since passed, but one of them was here in Houston. So I went to put some flowers for her. And so I'm running around doing errands saying, okay, do these really fast, or else you can get back, enjoy the hotel, go sit by the pool, do some work, do your reflection, do your thing. And so as I'm running around, then I have an encounter with Apple again, because there's always an encounter whenever I have an engagement with Apple. And then my car battery died. Now it's 400 degrees outside. My car battery died. And as I kept sitting there and stewing and sweating. My girlfriend was like, I came by to get you and you just needed to stew. I'm like, I really did. I needed to work up this righteous indignation at this point. It was like I needed to burn off the irritation. And as I reflected, I kept saying, Laurel, you knew this 3 weeks ago, actually about a month ago. Your car started feeling funny when you started it up. And you kept saying, something's wrong. I think my battery's going out. I hope it's not the starter. And you just kept moving. But you knew in your gut something was going wrong. And there you were on a day that you had other stuff to do, fighting with Mercedes-Benz roadside service and fighting with, the towing services. And it was just a freaking nightmare. But the post-mortem I was doing, the reflection I was doing was, why didn't you? You shoulda, which did not serve to move me forward. It only served to help me crank up this righteous indignation, to get more and more irritated, more and more frustrated. And the reality was this: the battery was dead. The battery was dead. I couldn't fix the battery being dead by being irritated by the fact that I didn't change the battery sooner. That wasn't going to fix it. And when the guy finally got there, a couple hours after this happened, finally got there, it took him all of 2 minutes to get my battery started up again. And I immediately went to the dealership and said, fix this battery. And so that post-mortem that I was doing, that reflection that I was doing in that moment, was not a reflection to say, okay, what did I learn? When this starts doing it, I'm pretty sure this is a battery. At least I know it's not a starter. So this feel again, if I feel this feeling again, next time, we're going to make sure to immediately change the battery. Immediately change the battery, because we know it's coming. We're not going to wait. We're not going to just push it. We're not going to do all that stuff we normally do, because see, we get busy. As they say, if you don't make time for your wellness, you will be forced to make time for your illness. If you don't make time to take care of your battery when you feel it going dead, you will make time to replace it, because you'll be sitting out there in the heat trying to get a battery jumped so you can go get a new battery and put in your car. And our ability to see in hindsight, they say hindsight is 20/20. Yes and no. So as I reflect on this 2022, I'm like, it's been a tough year, but there's been some really cool stuff that has happened. I've gotten to meet some amazing people. Amazing people. I got a chance to MC an event in California. That's a really cool event. I got a chance to MC an event. I got a chance to, I got asked to, I get to expand some work with a couple of clients because we are doing such great work together and they're ready to move some things to a next level. I am getting to continue my podcast and meet some amazing people. I'm getting to speak at a podcast festival this year. Who knew? Me speaking at a podcast festival. Somebody who likes to be behind the scenes, doesn't like to be on camera, all that good stuff, right? All of the things. And there is in that post-mortem celebration of how far we've come and an understanding that words matter. I was listening to someone yesterday. I think it was yesterday when I got up. I was listening to a reflection. And this person was talking about specific scripture. And she said, we always talk about the great I am and we talk about words. And y'all have heard me say this a lot. Words matter, words matter. And she said, if you look at the Hebrew translation, I am, it is like it's come to pass. It has come to pass. The great I am, it has come to pass. She said, so when you start speaking words like I'm sick, I'm tired, I can't make it happen, I can't do these things, you are speaking as if those things have already come to pass, especially when you begin them with I am. I am whatever this statement is that is coming to pass. I am exhausted. I am tired. I am fat. I am ugly. I am stupid. What about I am incredible. I am gorgeous. I am intelligent. I am smart. I am building an empire. I am making a 7-figure impact because it is my purpose to serve. I am, insert amazing thing here. Because here's the thing about reflection. When you reflect in hindsight, you have additional information that you didn't have when you made the decision or you lived the experience. Experience is a great teacher, and failures are a great teacher. right? Those experiences that we have that are not great, those experiences that we have that say, "Ooh, I wish I hadn't done that," or "Oh, I didn't know that was going to happen," or "I really should have cut them off much sooner." Those experiences are great teachers. In hindsight, those experiences can become ways in which we begin to judge. If you're going to reflect, it is important to reflect with compassion. And it's important to reflect in 2020 with an understanding that what you know now, you didn't know then. You can't judge your yesterday on today's knowledge. You can't judge your yesterday on today's experience. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the other people who experienced it with you. But what you can do in reflection is think through, more of this do I want? How many more people do I want to impact with this thing? What did I learn about me? You're going to meet some amazing people this week on my podcast and on the Fireside Show. And I was just listening to the podcast interview again yesterday to get it edited and pushed out for tomorrow. And you will meet her, Nicole Walker. She's incredible. She's a podcast host. She's a podcast coach. And she runs Win Hers United. And we were talking about the power of ignorance. The power of ignorance. And we've talked about power a lot. Like last year, I had a whole power month, the power of gratitude, right? The power of the pause. This year is talking about the power of ignorance. And it hit me as she was talking because she said, we do a lot of comparison, and we do a lot of comparison. And she said, I'm really good at being really, really competitive. I'm extremely competitive, but I compete with me. How can I do better than Nicole did yesterday, right? And you're going to hear all this in her podcast. It's phenomenal, by the way. And so we started talking about how, as she got started, she created something that she needed. She knew she wanted to run a business. She didn't have a lot of knowledge about doing that. So she wanted to interview women entrepreneurs because she wanted to learn from them. And she wanted to think about, how do we empower women and empower Black women? And so she started this podcast about empowering Black women and Black women entrepreneurs, because she said, I don't see that. I don't think there's anything out there. She's like, until I got into the space and I realized everybody's doing some kind of empowerment, something, everybody. But had I known that was the case, I might have still been sitting, as she calls it, someone's wallflower, still trying to launch the podcast, still trying to decide, because everybody else is doing it. Reflection can sometimes cause us to sit in analysis paralysis. It can cause us to say, we are not worthy. We don't have enough. We don't know enough. We aren't smart enough. We aren't connected enough. We are not enough. And most of the time, the opposite is true. In fact, the majority of the time, the opposite is true. You are enough because you exist. Now, might you have some additional knowledge you could gain that would be supportive? Absolutely. But you don't have to know everything before you start. Sometimes you just need to start, because in the starting, there is learning through reflection to know what you need to do to go forward to get to where you want to go, right? This has been Action Month. September is Action Month. And in order to take action, you have to have a clear vision of what it is you want. And you have to be really aligned with who you are and where you are, right? The 4 questions: who you are, where you are, what you want, and what it's going to take to get there. And that reflection on your action enables you to really make sure you are still moving forward towards the vision. And might the pieces of the vision change? Yeah, maybe. Generally, the overall outcome tends to stay the same, right? But the individual pieces, the steps along the way, may tend to morph as you go forward. That happens sometimes. And it's okay. It's okay if that happens. What you don't want to do is get stuck, to really get stuck in that place of reflecting so hard on what has been and what didn't work. And why am I going to try that again? Because I've tried that before. You don't want to get stuck so hard in that you don't allow yourself to move forward. And what's really been interesting about this, and this accelerator I was telling you guys about, is, one of the things she's having us do, I'm like, I've done that. I've done that. I've done that. Didn't work. I've done that. And I'm in an accelerator with somebody who's got multiple millions, right? 8-figure business. But I'm sitting here like, I've done that. That doesn't work. I've done that. That doesn't work. Well, something about it worked because it worked for this person. Now, I may need to do it a little differently so that it suits my style. And clearly I need to do it differently than I have done before. But that reflection that we do can sometimes be a window into something, and sometimes it can be a mirror that reflects back to us some things that we don't want to see and that we're not willing to see. Because that word reflection, look back, right? But it also is bringing something back to you. You see your reflection in a mirror. What is being reflected back? When you go back and do a postmortem, what is being reflected back to you? And so that reflection in talking to this woman was, wait, I'm sitting here doing the same thing that I got so irritated with people in corporate. When I went into a new organization, it was like, well, we've tried that before and it didn't work. We've done that before, it didn't work. We've always done it this week. We don't know why you want to try to do something. Tried it before, but it's a different day, and maybe we do something a little bit different. Even though the overall thing may be the same, the little pieces may be different. So open your mind. And here I am sitting with mind locked. But that's a fear response. And that's why it's important, if you're going to reflect and celebrate your wins, as well as move forward towards the thing you want. That's why it's really, really important when you reflect, to reflect with compassion and to reflect with grace. Because you didn't know then what you know now. And to judge yourself on new information that you just got is not only unfair, it puts yourself in a position to never be able to win. You're never going to win that battle. You're never going to win that argument because you just didn't know, and you couldn't have. It's not possible for you to have known the things then that you know now. You had to keep living. You had to keep living. You had to keep experiencing. You had to see and feel something different in order to be able to do something different. That's how it works, right? When we have experiences, the things that feel good, the things that work, the things that move, we try to keep doing those things. And then as we gather more information, we may tweak it a little bit, but we try to avoid the things that don't work, cause pain, right? Cause irritation, take us backwards. We're trying to avoid those things. But sometimes in our desire, our grip on moving forward, we don't allow ourselves to look backwards with and reflect with an open eye, truly with that 2020 vision that sees everything, not just the stuff that went bad that we're embarrassed about or upset about, but the things that went well, the things that, that didn't go so well, but could I just tweak it? It is important time for reflection. For reflection is your birthday, right? You've gone through a year. What went great that year? What do you want to do the next year? How do you want to show up? How do you want to be? How do you want to serve? Do you still want to serve? Where do you want to be as the year moves forward? Give yourself an opportunity to think deeper and to think differently about the past. Because the past can't be undone. You can't change it. You can't fix it. You can't undo it. It is done. All you can work with is the present and doing what you can to plan for and move in action towards a future that you desire. So reflection is important, but you got to do it in a way that is productive, right? And not weaponize the whole idea of reflection. And that's not necessarily easy because we have new vision, we have new information, we have new perspectives upon which we evaluate what we have done in the past. You know, as I think back, because both, like I said, both of my grandmothers had birthdays this weekend too. My maternal grandmother was on the 24th on Saturday, and then my paternal grandmother was on the 25th. And I intended to post a picture about with both of them. I think I posted it before. It's the two of them, and I'm an infant. And I love these women. And so part of the reflection that I had was, you know, when you get in those moments, and this is really important. We're starting to see more of this now as people start digging into ancestry. As I look back at these women and I thought about them and I thought about the things they did, the things they went through, the work they did, the children they raised, the communities they lifted up, the relationships they built, and I reflected on them, that reflection sent back to me, you are made of some pretty strong stuff. There is some amazingness coursing through your veins. And sometimes we forget that. We forget that we are our ancestors' greatest dream. We are a reflection of all of the things that they went through to get us here. That's why I talk about voting so much, right? We are a reflection of those people who said, I'm not okay with being marginalized. I'm not okay with not having a voice, because see, I'm doing the work. And if it says, you know, you got to have representation, then where's my representation? And I'm going to fight for my representation. Representation matters. Seeing little brown and little black faces matters. Seeing those black male teachers in elementary school matters. Seeing black women on boards matters. I just saw a post yesterday. These women on boards thing make me crazy, because I very rarely see a diverse group of women at those events. I see women, but the group of women is not usually very diverse, if it's diverse at all. And it's so frustrating, because that means you do not look for women on boards. That's not what you're trying to do. Because trying to put more women on boards means trying to put all women on boards. So in that reflection, right, we see what's going on. We see you. What is being reflected back to us is what's being reflected back to you when you look back over the year. Grace and compassion and love and movement and learning and gaining of skill and increased connection and new opportunities. Is that what's being reflected back to you? Because if you look good, I bet there's a lot of that there, if you allow yourself to see it, as opposed to the things you coulda, woulda, shoulda. Coulda, woulda, shoulda, didn't. It's done now. Done and done. But tomorrow's another day. As Scarlett O'Hara says, I'll think about it tomorrow. Tomorrow's another day. Tomorrow is another day. And there's always another opportunity to do something different, to move forward, to think forward, to use your reflection as a tool, as another piece of information to move forward. And that's what I loved about this conversation with Nicole, because we're both data driven. And so she started a lot of things based on data. The other thing she did in her reflection, which is why we're talking about this today, the other thing she did in her reflection that you'll hear her talking about is she started thinking about what everyone was asking her for. So when you go back and reflect and you're trying to decide who you are and how you show up and how you serve, right? How you do what you do, how you want to be, who you want to be. Who do people tell you you are? Who do people say that you are? What do they ask you for? What are they always coming to you for? Because that's the value you're delivering to them. Now, I'm not talking about users, right, who are always asking for something. That's not what I'm talking about. Teammates, colleagues, clients, friends, and family. People come to you for something. What do they come to you for? Do they come to you because you're always able to give the best advice? Do they come to you because you're always able to solve complex issues? Do they come to you because you're going to speak the truth? Do they come to you because you are highly creative and they're trying to figure out how to do something and you got a way to do it? Do they come to you because you have a great understanding of the business and you can see the path that they're stuck on? What is it that people come to you for that you deliver? That genius zone that you operate in without even knowing most times that's where you're sitting. And not only that, even if it's not your genius, if it's excellence for you, if you're operating with excellence, how do you marry that with your genius and deliver something that is uniquely you? Because both of those things are great for you. You just don't want to sit a whole lot of time in your excellence zone. You want to be in your genius zone as much as possible, if not all the time, right? And if you guys, for those of you who are listening new, the whole idea of genius, operating in your zone of genius and your zone of excellence, comes from a book called The Big Leap by Gay Hendricks. The Big Leap, LEAP, by Gay Hendricks. And he's got a supplement called The Joy of Genius, which is phenomenal. It's kind of like a workbook that goes with the book. But he talks about this whole being operating in your zone of genius. It's kind of like being in the zone, actually. When you're operating in your genius, you're in the zone. You have plenty of time. You've got joy. You've got all of these kind of things, right? When you're in your zone of genius. When you're in your zone of excellence, you're getting it done and you're really, really good at it, but it's not necessarily bringing you joy. But there's a way to marry those two things. There's a way to marry those two things so that you are moving forward towards the thing that you want. And it's important to reflect and have things reflected back to you and ask for things to be reflected back to you so that you know how to move. You know, they say kids are a reflection, right, of their parents, and how you have to be really careful about what you say and what you do because kids are always watching. And you never know when that little bad word you said or that opinion that you had is going to show up in the most inopportune space and time, right? Because they're listening and they're watching because that's how they learn. And it's the same with us as adults. We learn when we do these postmortems, we learn from what happened before. We learn from what occurred before so that we can move forward into the next thing. That's what we're trying to do, right? Is always continuously learn. We're going to try to pop in a commercial here soon and do some reflections today. And then, of course, at the end of the show, I'm going to, towards the end of the show, we'll do our PSAs on voting and what to do and how to do and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna get moving on some of those kind of things too. But this reflection piece is huge. It's huge, and you got to give yourself a chance to reflect with grace and with compassion. So we're going to take a really quick commercial break here. If you're on my Melon app, you're going to hear it through the speakers here in the studio. So we're going to do this, and then we'll finish up on reflection and do our shout outs.
Are you looking for a place you can work through your next move with no judgment? Are you in need of an advisor that will support your moves and tell you the truth? Or are you just ready to take a next step but aren't sure what it is? Well, I'm here to help you figure all of that out. My name is Laurel Rutledge. I'm the host of the Rutledge Perspective Radio Show live here on KCOH TV Radio, The Boost. And I'm also a personal and professional development advisor and coach. And I work in the space of leadership, because leadership is about behavior and not position, and career clarity. And I would love to be of service to you. So head on over to my website, laurelrutledge.com, and schedule a time to chat with me. And while you're at it, check out my replays of the radio show, the podcast, fireside show, and follow me on social media. I cannot wait to chat with you. Talk to you soon.
Awesome. Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
And thank all of you for following and all of this. I mean, it is a birthday reflection. It's a birthday celebration. And I really am so grateful and thankful and highly blessed and favored to still be here in year 3 of the radio show.
Woo!
And year 3 of the podcast. I'm blown away some days when I allow myself a chance to just be still. I am absolutely blown away when I allow myself to reflect with compassion and grace and look for the wins. Look for the wins. Look for the things to celebrate. Look for the amazingness. I mean, my village is strong, y'all. My Fierce Five delivering flowers today. My brother's in town, so we're gonna go do dinner. I mean, it's just I'm just so thankful to be here, and I want you guys to really think about what you can reflect on, and be excited about as you move into kind of this next realm. And so you heard in that commercial the whole idea of, moving forward. And I don't like that whole idea of stuck. Y'all know how I get on words, right? I hate the word pivot because it's overused. Indoctrination is overused. Y'all know all the things are overused. But I like the word movement and moving and being in motion. And if you're going to reflect effectively, you have to be willing to then be in motion. You have to be willing to do something with the information that you gather. Now, your initial do something may be, oh, I need to sit a minute and marinate on that. But even that process of marinating is movement. You're not just sitting in dorsal, right? We've talked about the polyvagal theory. You're not just sitting in that freeze mode. Now, we got to freeze every once in a while because that's our safety, our nervous system keeping us safe. But think about how can you move forward? A baby step is still a step. A sideways step is still a step. It's movement. If you are not excited and happy and fulfilled where you are, how do you move? How do you create movement? If something just isn't working, how are you moving through that, moving past that? How are you making ways to figure something out that gives you something different? You got to have movement if you're going to get where you want to be. Everything isn't going to be brought to you. This isn't a peel me a grape life, right? Sometimes you have to go get it if you want it. If you don't want it, okay. But that amazing idea that you have isn't just going to manifest itself. You've got to do some work. That amazing team you're trying to build is not going to get built just because you wish it. A goal without a plan is just a wish, right? You can wish it, but what are you going to do about it? What connections are you going to make in order to find the people that you know are out there waiting for you to build this amazing team? And then how are you going to keep them? What action are you taking? What movement are you making to make something happen? And then how do you go back and reflect on that movement to understand how it got you where you are today? And what's amazing about that thing and what is not quite what you want it to be and how you can tweak a little bit. Sometimes this is about small adjustments. It's not about throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Small adjustments, just tweak. As the country people say, just touch, just touch. Was that Juice? That may have been Juice Dan Wilson. Just a touch. Sometimes you just need a little tweak. You don't have to turn the world upside down when things aren't working. Now, if something's egregious and it's really crazy, you might have to completely change direction. But that's rare. Sometimes it's just a little tweak. It's just figuring out that thing. And what I've realized in the reflection is sometimes we can't see the little tweak that needs to happen. You know, there are people that'll come and talk to me and about the thing that they're doing. I'm like, well, but you should do that, or you should do this, or why aren't you doing that? Because that's all you. Why are you letting somebody else do it? That's all you. And then I sit back and reflect and think, well, crap, I can do that for somebody else's business. Why can't I do that for mine? Why can't I figure out my own stuff when I can figure out somebody else's? And that's why I posted in the reflection what I did on Monday. Sometimes all we need is for someone else to ask us a question. Someone else to ask us what's going on and what we need. Sometimes that's the thing we need because we can't see it when we're in the middle of it. It's difficult when we do that. It's difficult when we try to see all of our own stuff too, because we can't. We can't. It's not possible. When you're in the middle of it, what they say, you can't see the forest for the trees. When you're in the middle, you just see all the stuff. If you can keep your eyes on where you're going, sometimes you can rise above the noise. But most of the time, it's going to take somebody else to come to you and say, okay, did you think about this? Did you see this? What about this? To ask you questions in a way that you can hear them. Because remember, when you're talking, your brain is focused on talking. It's not focused on listening. That's where your focus is, right? That's where your nervous system is going to make your mouth move, right? To say the words. Your brain is thinking about what you want to say. It's not hearing what you say. I did a podcast on that. Did you hear what you just said? But when someone else talks to us, we can hear it repeated. That's why that repetition, when you work with therapists, them reflecting to you your words, why it's so powerful. Because when you hear things come back to you, you're like, oh, did I say that? Yes, you did. That's not quite what I meant. Or I didn't realize I said that. That's powerful. That's powerful. We're going to do some shout outs here in a minute. Because again, I am just so entirely grateful.
First, you had a shout out, let me say,
yes,
from Suzanne.
Hey, Suzanne.
Happy birthday to you, my
Thank
friend.
you.
She says, Michelle Johnson says happy birthday.
Hey, Michelle.
Tisha.
Yes.
Hawkins says, happy birthday to you, Lord. You look amazing.
Oh, thank you. I love y'all. Those are some of the members of my Fierce Five, too. Tisa and Suzanne. Thank y'all so much. Yeah, I love my little dress. Decided to dress it up a little bit for y'all today. If that's part of the reflection, too. I'm like, my mom always told me. She always told me. When you don't feel your best, make an extra effort to look your best or you're going to look like you feel.
What to say?
So I'm like, you know what? When you get up and get ready, even if you're just ready to walk to your home office, get up, get dressed. Stop wearing everything with elastic in it, Laurel. Because you lose track. Dolly Parton said that all the time. She didn't wear anything with elastic. Because when you wear elastic, you can expand and not even know it.
Oh, okay.
Right? So I was like, you know what? I need to go back to every day, getting up, getting ready. Every day, as if I'm going to meet somebody. You never know. Every day, being prepared. All right, let's do some shout outs.
Okay, we've got Panama.
Yay.
Venezuela is in the building.
Hey, Venezuela.
France is in the building. Mexico, Brazil, Germany, Finland, United Kingdom, New Zealand, and triple numbers. You've got Lisbon is in the building. Panama City. You've got Helsinki, London, Wellington, and last numbers. You got Port Arthur.
Oh, Port Arthur. All right.
St. Louis, Charlotte, Los Angeles, Chicago, Dallas, Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and of course, Houston, Texas.
Of course, Houston. And I know I've got Odessa, Texas. I've got Cincinnati, Ohio out there. We got Mo City. Mo City, we didn't forget you. Dr. Cynthia, we didn't forget you. So, y'all, I love doing those shout outs and it might get old for some of y'all, but it never gets old for me because I love seeing where everybody is. But two, it just to me is a weekly reminder for all of us, not just for me, a weekly reminder that someone is always listening. Someone is always listening. And you have to be prepared to know that someone's always listening. Oh, thank you. Y'all look. That's a flower pot cupcake for gardening. Y'all see that on Millinette? Oh, thank you, Jerry.
KCOH.
Oh, from KCOH. I love it. I love these little that's a cupcake in a flower pot, y'all, because Jerry made me start gardening. She shamed me into gardening. This is lovely. Thank you. Oh, I love it.
Token to say happy birthday.
Thank you. Y'all, it really has been a great year. It's been a great year. It's been a crazy year. It's been a tough year. There have been some times when I'm like, what am I doing? But we are all here for a purpose. And when you reflect and you go back and look at your last year, if you 3 months, whatever it is, we are all here for a purpose. We all have gifts to give. And who are we to hold our gifts and not allow others to benefit from them? And we all have them. All of you listening to me right now have gifts that someone needs. Someone needs you. Someone needs your wisdom. Someone needs your compassion. Someone needs your love. Someone needs just your kind word that you're always willing to give to somebody. Somebody needs your smile today. As I was calling the election office this morning, and I'll talk about that in a minute as we begin to wrap up, I started to dive in. As they answered, I started diving into the thing. I was like, oh, how are you today? And there was like a pause because people don't expect you to ask how they're doing. And they don't. And they especially don't expect you to ask how they're doing and then listen to the answer. It's just kind of like this performative thing. Yep, how are you? And then we keep moving. Maybe today, reflect on every interaction that you have with someone. Do you ask them genuinely, and how are you today? How's it going? How are you feeling? And then listen to the answer. It's about connection. It's about relationship building. It doesn't mean that that person's going to be in your life forever. It's going to be a complete stranger. They may stay a complete stranger. But you never know when that one question that you've asked someone, that one moment of demonstrating that you hear them and you see them will give them something to reflect on later on that day that says, I'm okay. It started out as a bad day, or I didn't know I was going to make it through this year, or man, I hate this job, or whatever. And that one pleasant interaction might be the thing that just makes their day. That part of reflection is a part of how can I continue to show up the best way I can show up to make the impact I want to make, to fulfill the purpose that I have to fulfill. And everybody's purpose is different, but we all have one. We all have one, and we all have the capacity to serve. We all have the capacity to serve. Martin Luther King said that. If you're here, you have the capacity to serve. And so as you reflect on your year, whether that's at the end of the year in December and we go into the happy new year in 2023, whether it's on your birthday this year, whatever it is, as you reflect, think very deeply about the amazing human that you are. Find those things that make you uniquely you. Find those things that are clearly your divine gifts that you want to share. Just because someone else does some of the same things you do doesn't mean they do it the way you do. There are billions of people in the world. You have a unique set of gifts that are delivered in a unique way. Yes, you may be an accountant, and there are millions of accountants around there. But the way you interact with your clients is different than every other accountant because you're unique. Reflect on who you are and where you are and how you want to show up for yourself and for others. And celebrate you, number one. And then two, celebrate the wins that you have, even the smallest wins. The fact that I got up and put on this dress this morning, right? That's a celebration. The fact that I got up this morning. Celebrate the wins because the wins make a difference. And we have to remember, do your brag book, right? We have to remember that not everything is going to be a championship win. Not everything is going to be a gold medal. Sometimes a win is just being able to exist that day and to get through that day, to get dinner on the table, to have the kids not have a meltdown. Sometimes that's just a win. But every win is a win. With that, we got to talk about voting before we get out of here. So for those of you who don't like to talk about voting, you got the reflection. Go reflect. Let me know what you reflected on. Let me know some of your wins. Send me a DM. I want to know what your wins are this year so far, because we're going into the last quarter. So what kind of wins do you have so far that can put wind underneath your sails for this last 3 months of the year, right? Because we still have 3 months. Still have 3 months to go. So we have plenty of time to get things done. So let me know your wins. Send me a DM, comment on a post, something. Let me know what your wins were. All right. So voting. Get registered. We still have time to get registered in the U.S., but not a whole lot. So because the general election is on November 8th. Alaska actually has some general elections in Juneau on the 4th of October. So coming up, most of ours are kind of waning down here in the U.S. On the 29th, so on Thursday, Kuwait has their parliamentary election because what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So Kuwait is going into parliamentary elections on the 29th. On the 2nd of October, Brazil has a general election, and my attorney just moved to Brazil. So y'all pay attention, right? So Brazil has a general election. Bosnia-Herzegovina has a presidential and parliamentary election on the 2nd of October, and Bulgaria has their parliamentary election on the 2nd of October. So coming up next week are some really large global elections. So be paying attention to what's going on, because we are a global society. All these nationalistic folks, that sounds real good, but the world doesn't operate just in nations anymore. The world is so global. We are so interconnected across the globe that what happens to one of us happens to all of us. So pay attention to those things that are happening and what that means for our sisters and brothers and colleagues and friends and family around the world. In your registration, there are places to go. So you want to go to vote.gov, vote.gov in the United States to understand how and when and where to get registered. Understand what the deadlines are to get registered for the general election, but try to get registered before then, because there's stuff happening before then. And the local elections count. So yes, we have a big general election coming up in November, but there are going to be other elections on that ballot. Local, city, state, county, right? Those things are important too, because what happens local. Yes, we got all this federal stuff, but it starts local. So please go get registered. If you're turning 18, go get registered. Give that birthday gift to yourself. right? Go get registered to vote. Take some people with you. Make it a voter registration party. Go to a voter registration event. Better yet, hold a voter registration event for your birthday. Oh, I'm going to have to think about that next year. Hold a voter registration event for your birthday. I think that's a pretty cool idea. You can also go to ballotpedia.org. That's where you can get a copy of your ballot. What's on your ballot, what the ballot initiatives are, what local elections are. I mean, Ballotpedia has everything. What's coming up, what local elections are, what your sample ballot is, all of that kind of stuff. So you can get prepared. You're not walking into the polling place not knowing what you're going to be voting for. Because a lot of things are written in ways that yes means no and no means yes. They do that on purpose. They try to confuse on purpose. They try to disillusion people and distract people on purpose. Go find out what's going to be on your ballot and really educate yourself on the issues and educate yourself on how the ballot measures are written, right? So anything that's going to be asking about bond issues or other elections or other ballot measures that may be to your city constitution or the state constitution, all that kind of stuff, go read it, right? Go read it. And if you are confused, this is not a time to be embarrassed about saying I'm confused. Go find somebody who can explain it to you, right? And find someone who you believe can explain it to you unbiased, can just give you the facts. So then you can make a decision based on your perspective about what's important. You can also go to When We All Vote. That's where they have the election protection hotline numbers, whenweallvote.org, election protection hotline numbers. You want to take those numbers to you in the polls. They have them by language. So there's one for English, there's one for Spanish, there's one for Arabic, and then there's one for all the many of the Asia Pacific island languages. So Tagalog is in there. So make sure that you go and look at those election protection hotlines, and they have a list of the rights, your rights as a voter. So make sure you have those things with you. So you know once you go to the poll that you can ask for a provisional ballot if somebody there says you shouldn't be able to vote. Just make sure you're prepared. It's all about being prepared before you go. Prepared to vote, but also prepared to fight for your vote if you have to do that when you get there. Because remember, especially in Texas, now we've got this opportunity for anybody to be a quote unquote poll watcher, a party affiliated poll watcher. And they've been given some interesting guidelines, shall we say. I was trying to find a nice word. They've been given some interesting guidelines around how they're supposed to behave as a partisan poll watcher. So just be cognizant of that, right? Really pay attention. There's some shady stuff happening, y'all. Make sure your voice is heard. So go vote. Also, for those of you who are wanting to be a poll worker, now this is Harris County, but I'm guessing it's going to be similar in counties in Texas and potentially across states. I am trying to get to be a poll worker. So I've been calling and I've been applying and doing all this kind of stuff. And I talked to someone today, and luckily all my stuff is in there. So they do have me in the system, but they get all the judges first, and then the judges get their poll workers. So if you're waiting to become a poll worker, that's that sequence. So just passing on information. Once they get the judges, so as she said, in the next couple of weeks, we should know the judges will be there, and then the judges have to tell the county who, or the elections folks, Harris votes, who their poll workers are going to be. And then we have to go to a training. So you have to do an all-day training. You do get paid for the training, y'all, but you do have to do an all-day training to become a poll worker. So pay attention, think about that. It is, if marching isn't your thing, if protesting isn't your thing, if petitions isn't your thing, find your thing. For me, being able to work at a poll, I can't wait. I am thrilled. I'm really hoping, so y'all send up a prayer. I'm really hoping that I will get selected to be a poll worker, because I just think it's important. When there aren't enough poll workers, polling places close, which makes it really hard to vote. And most of those polling places that get closed, according to the data, most of the polling places that get closed tend to be in communities that are marginalized, right? And that's just not Black and brown communities. That can be rural communities too, communities that don't have a lot of options. So if you are so inclined and have not only the time, but the desire, use one of your vacation days, go take the training, go sign up to be a poll worker, and then go work the polls. It is really important that everyone get a chance to exercise their right to vote. All right. With that, guys, I know it's a little early today, but I'm celebrating my birthday, so I'm going to go take my extra little 5 minutes and go get my cashew milk for my shakes. I just want to thank you again. Thank you, Jared P. Beasley and KCOH, for my birthday cupcake and for the opportunity to be here and to do this show. and to have had the confidence in me to do that, knowing I knew nothing about radio. So I'm so grateful for that. I'm grateful to all of you for celebrating and all the notes and for all of you tuning in. Thank you so much for all of that. It really does make a difference for me. I do not take it lightly. I do not take it for granted. So every comment, everything I do read, and I'm working on. That's part of my reflection, is how do I get a lot of things off my plate so that I can get much more engaged with all of you and make sure that I'm responding much more timely, and that you guys know I do see them. But I do see them. I see every single one of them, and I appreciate every single one of them. And I just want to let you know how much I appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. Send me your reflections. I want to see what your wins are so we can celebrate together, and we will catch you next week. Take care, everybody. Bye.